called Diehards. You've got Bobby Gomes and myself, Kyle Dvorchak, here. How's it going, Bobby? How was week 9, I think?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I don't know. It was pretty good. Tournament's not great, but had some good calls.
Yeah, I had one or two teams. I basically just if I had Russell, like if I just switched Russell Wilson for Jameis Winston. But I went Winston. I didn't make a ton of money, and we're here for week 10.
Yeah.
It be like that. You ready to get into our first game?
Yeah, let's hop right in.
All right, first game, one of, I think, the highest total of slate right now, depending on your book, I guess, is Arizona versus Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay are 4.5-point home favorites. There is a 52-point total in this game. It is down 2 points, but still the highest of the slate. So the obvious place to start here is, are we going back to the Chris Godwin buy low model, the every other week model that was broken last week when Mike Evans put up his second game of over 180 yards and a score? Or are you going back to Mike Evans?
Yeah, so I think you should definitely, if you're MMEing, have exposure to both. Obviously, Mike Evans crushed last week. I still like Godwin. I don't think it'll knock his ownership much, especially with this being one of the higher totaled games on the slate. I think OJ Howard news is interesting. He would be someone in tournaments that I wouldn't mind kind of getting in a three-man game, in a three-man stack for Tampa and possible four-man game stack. Like Ronald Jones as well, he is now the lead back in Tampa Bay, whatever that means. And he's definitely seen an uptick in usage. So while it's not like greatly significant, it's still an uptick within this offense versus Arizona Rushdie that isn't great. And Jameis too, like he's not good at football, but he's all right for fantasy football. So I don't mind a little Jameis in my life. I think he's interesting in terms of just basically they can't run the ball. And on this side of the game, there's a lot of lesser ownership than what's going to be on the Arizona side with Kyler Murray, who's pretty much like definitive chalk, Christian Kirk, who's chalk. That's pretty much like the only way you can really differentiate on Arizona is Max Williams or going to one of those secondary receivers, which I guess is fine versus Tampa Bay, whether it's Preston Cooper or Damiere Byrd. But Damiere Byrd was a healthy scratch last week. Maybe Keyshawn Johnson. I don't know, Kyle. Why don't you get into it and break it down for us?
Before we get into that, I just want to say one thing. Please, God, don't play OJ Howard.
See, like you say that. No, you say that, but like if he's healthy, like he's in a pretty. If you're MMEing, like he's in a good spot. Like Brate's in a good spot as well. Brate's not seeing red zone usage. OJ Howard's seeing all the red zone usage. Like don't play him, but like if you're trying to be different in this $100 millionaire maker, like this is the highest total game on the slate. Like it's not a bad it's not a bad route in terms of construction.
It is a bad route only because I actually have a bad play that I think is the MME good play. Brashad Perriman, 8 targets and played on 60% of the snaps last week. I would rather play Perriman in that 3-man Tampa Bay stack.
That's actually a really sharp call. I was watching that game and I was like, "Where's Chris Godwin?" Because every time he had 19 and Godwin has 12, and like every time like, it just hitting Perriman. But like, was there a reason for that? Like, it's kind of.
No, that's how they started off the season. Then he got hurt. Like they just clearly want him as their number 3 receiver. And I'm guessing, I mean, I didn't watch the game. I'm guessing he gets no coverage because obviously you're not going to cover Brashad Perriman when you have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans out there. So yeah,
Perriman's hairline.
It's like, would you say it's better or worse than LeBron?
It's like really bad, dude. 70-year-old man.
Yeah. All right. Out of the
like Arizona, this is when he was 20.
Yeah. I think he was one of the guys who like they lied about his age to get him a younger draft age too. Like him and Kevin White, I think. I know Kevin White.
Is that true?
I know for a fact. I'm
Googling Brashad Perriman right now because he is.
I can guarantee you Kevin White that did definitively happen. Like the kind of
Oh, now he's bald, so like you can't tell me, but like, dude, it was bad. Like it was Neo bad. You know the singer Neo?
Oh, I did not know he was.
It looks like him, to be honest. He just shaved his head eventually. He used to have dreads. He just went with a shave, like, because he just couldn't deal with it anymore. Yeah, it was bad.
that's the route. That's the route you have to go. I'll probably have to go there earlier than I'd hope. Good thing for him to get over it.
Yeah, keep wearing those head, dude. This is crazy.
All right, homework for everyone. By the time we have the Sunday 9 a.m. show, Google Neo and then put it on a screen, and Google Shot Perriman and put it on another screen.
Yeah, it's bad, dude. I'm looking at it right now. Bad.
All right, Arizona receivers.
Shaved head now, though.
Arizona receivers, I legitimately just don't think anyone outside of Christian Kirk is that viable. Like, I guess for me, I would probably lean to Keyshawn Johnson.
Lead Keyshawn too,
just because he's like one of the guys they've gotten, at least I don't want to say consistent work, but the most work on deep routes, where that's what, like, the opposite of Christian Kirk for the most part, and Larry Fitzgerald. So he kind of has a unique role in the offense. Last week he played, just under half the team snaps, got 3 targets. Was this last week or 2? Yeah, it was last week. So yeah, that's who I'd go with. And I think if you're MMEing, you have to try and find, you have to find this team's Rashad Perriman. They really just don't have one, but I guess Keyshawn Johnson is where I'd go. Anything else about this game?
Honestly, there's a lot of, David Johnson at 5,700 is interesting to me. Not really, but just for the price.
Yeah. I think it probably comes back to the split that we saw basically with him and Chase Edmonds, between him and Kenyon Drake this time, where Chase Edmonds does have a quote fantasy viable role. It's just not the David Johnson still is clearly
I'd obviously prefer Drake, but it's just because if Drake's going to see an Edmonds role, he's going to get slot reps, but it's not like Christian Kirk's out anymore. During that stretch, Kirk was out, so it kind of bumped Edmonds.
Even though exactly. Yeah,
a good player, but all right, we can move on to the next.
Yes,
sorry for interrupting.
All right, next game. I don't think there's really a line set. I think I've got it depends on what book you're looking at. It's Kansas City versus the Titans. We won't know until Mahomes is announced as playing or not. Right now, I guess I'm looking at Kansas City as 5.5-point favorites, 48.5-point total. But that's I don't know. It's speculative at best. For me, I am obviously I'm actually somewhat interested in the Tannehill side of things if Mahomes plays, because that forces obviously the Titans to just have to pass the ball every single play to keep up. And they still won't. But we saw last week Tannehill get it done through the air, kind of. I think he threw for 300 yards and 1 touchdown. And also got it done through the ground. It was garbage time, but that's probably what we'll see again this week. So for me, he had 38 rushing yards and a score. So for me, I think at 5,100, Tannehill is projecting as a good value, and I agree with that, despite the fact that he's not that good. But do you pair him with anyone? It's just so hard to predict who, if anyone, is good on this team.
Yeah, so I think you can pair him with AJ Brown. He's the big-bodied red zone receiver that I kind of prefer to Corey Davis, although I don't hate Corey Davis. With AJ Brown, if Mahomes does play and it becomes a pace-up spot for Tennessee. That's pretty much it, though. I like Derrick Henry 6,400. The pass game equity isn't there, even though he caught a screen pass for a touchdown last week. Jonnu Smith, maybe he's going to see a significant amount of snaps if Walker sits. On the KC side, Tyreek Hill's always in play. I kind of relate it back to with the Matt Moore situation. Even if Matt Moore plays, it's kind of how what Tyreek Hill was with Alex Smith. That would kind of be what he still has the upside. Obviously, he has more upside if Patrick Mahomes plays. And then Kelsey 6,400. I don't hate it. Probably a way to be different. Not a lot of people are going to be paying up for a tight end, I imagine.
Yeah, and I would imagine if Matt Moore plays, even less people be paying up for Kelsey when there's other options. I think you got Austin Hooper within 1,000 of them. So
it's a real pace down spot for Tennessee. It's the only thing for KC. It's going up against Tennessee isn't great.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And I think I know this is one that you have to tune in Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to actually. That's when we should probably know if Mahomes is playing, and that really changes how you attack this game. So let's move into our next game. We have Buffalo versus the Browns. Browns, I'm honestly a bit surprised at this line. 2.5-point home favorites, a 40.5-point total. That total has moved down a point since opening. One of the lower ones on the slate, despite the slate having like fewer games. I think there are 2 more teams on bye this week than there were last week. It's so much of a better slate than last week. So I guess I would start off with it's probably Devin Singletary chalk week. Last week he got 20 carries. I want to say it was like 5 or 6 targets. They finally unleashed Singletary, and had he hit the
They really didn't unleash him though, because they had 4 goal line carries that all went to Frank Gore, and then a 4th and 1 that went to Frank Gore, and then they were just like, Frank Gore isn't really good, so then we'll use Singletary. It actually took them a while to like get this thing. Like, he could have had a much bigger day if he had gotten the goal line, pretty much.
If he had gotten the goal line, he was 5 yards short of the 100-yard bonus too. Like there were he still left points on the field.
They left a lot of points on the board for Singletary. It's going to be Singletary chalk week, really.
I would imagine so. He's 5,000 coming off of a 23 touch game against an awful Browns. Like the Browns just are a very bad team right now, so I would imagine so.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I think paying up outside of McCaffrey. Like obviously, I think McCaffrey is going to be everyone's lock in cash because we saw it last week. It worked. Probably work again this week. Outside of him, I don't think Le'Veon Bell is going to be that popular, Saquon Barkley. So really, I think it's going to be mostly a pay down spot at running back and cash for your next 2 spots. So I would say so, at least.
Okay.
Let me see. I think on the Buffalo side, you can always play John Brown and Josh Allen, but I do think the Browns very sack heavy defense probably matches up well against Josh Allen. So I probably wouldn't be. And also, you've got John Brown probably getting good coverage from Denzel Ward, or honestly, on the other side, getting Greedy Williams. So for me, I'm probably not super enthused about John Brown. And I don't know how many air yards he has anymore. So, what do I even do? All right, Pete. But for me, Devin Singletary on that side's where I'm going. And I think in tournaments, it's interesting to go Browns defense, Nick Chubb, 20 carries in back-to-back games. And
what about Kareem Hunt, though?
I think it is probable that he takes over Dontrell Hilliard's role. Dontrell Hilliard, I want to say, saw a quarter of the snaps and got a few targets last week. My guess. Oh, would I consider playing Kareem Hunt?
Play.
Yeah, no, I think it's in play, especially just because he's 3K, which is that's honestly, it kind of reminds me of the Golden Tate min price on the week back in FanDuel. I'm just shocked that a guy who we saw as a top 5 running back last year up until week 10, and the same year before that is 3K.
Yeah, so horrible mispricing.
Yeah, it's just it just seems like they forgot about him. I still think for me, Chubb is the play. I think Kareem Hunt probably just comes into the Dontrell Hilliard role. That's apparently a thing. But also the presence of Kareem Hunt does have me off Nick Chubb in terms of any stability in cash.
No, I'm with you. I have no interest in Nick Chubb.
Even in tournaments, you wouldn't play him?
Probably not. I'm told there's better situations in the slate. I feel well. Actually, maybe I'm wrong in saying that because Buffalo funnels to the run. So yeah, I guess you could play him.
I think outside of that, you're just looking at I'm not playing Baker against a pretty solid pass defense. Honestly, it doesn't even matter who he plays anymore. So I think Jarvis Landry's fine. He gets, I forget who their slot corner is, but he's terrible. And then Odell Beckham drawing the Tre'Davious White coverage on the outside. I bet you like that. I'm giving you defensive matchup stats or whatever. But yeah, Odell Beckham on the outside. Honestly, I think they're tied in targets.
Don't equate me to don't make me like Justin. I know
don't make me a bad guy.
Don't make me be that guy.
No, I do think, though, at least in some sense, it does help that they have an awful corner in their slot, and then they have Tre'Davious White, one of the better corners on the outside. And also just the fact that Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry have the same amount of targets on the year, despite Jarvis, I think, is 4,900 and Odell Beckham's much higher. So Jarvis Landry, I think, is fine again in cash, just like he was last week. But I don't know. I'm probably going elsewhere. I think it's a fine play, though.
Yeah, I'm with you. Any Dawson Knox love? He had another touchdown.
I think he had another touchdown on he had 2 targets or something though.
2 targets. Yeah, he's splitting with Tyler Kropp. That's a bad call on my part.
I mean, you got to look everywhere though. Yeah, no, 2 targets. No, he didn't even score.
Oh, it might have been called back. He definitely caught.
Okay. No, it'd be different if you actually had any decent amount of targets, but
yeah.
All right, next game we have, let's see here, Baltimore versus Cincy. Cincy, geez, 10-point home underdogs, 44.5-point total. It's moved down 2 points. I mean, the movement on the total would make you say don't stack this game, but also the more important reason not stack this game is Cincy is god awful. They're the only reason I'm even interested in this game is that they have just like for the exact same reason they've been god awful, and Lamar Jackson is just absolutely crushed. We saw him on the Island game just beat up the Patriots, which was surprising to me. I actually thought they would have prepared a little better for him, but he just has the highest floor like of any quarterback in recent memory, honestly. So if it weren't for me really liking Michael Thomas and Christian McCaffrey, I'd be much more on him in cash. I think in tournaments he's a good play. And I'm running back with Marquise Brown. I don't know what his air yards are anymore, but they're damn good. And last week we saw him, I think he played over half the team's snaps, got 4 targets, which led all receivers. So I think he's pretty much just going to step into the role he had before he got injured. And that's a pretty darn valuable role. So that's probably, I don't know. I would just run him as like a one-off or run him and Jackson as a 1-and-1 stack.
Yeah, Jackson is pretty much like a 4th running back at this point, so he's someone I'm definitely going to consider. Marquise Brown just doesn't have the upside in usage, but he's fine for GPPs. If you were going to go elsewhere, like Ingram 7,100, I don't want to pay that because the pass game usage isn't there. But this is Cincinnati, so he could break a long run situationally versus defense. On the Cincy side, like I'm not pretty much interested. Actually maybe Tyler Boyd at 4,700 wouldn't be the worst play to kind of run back with Lamar Jackson. Boyd did actually better when Green was in the lineup. AJ Green should be back this week. I don't know. That's pretty much my thoughts. Got any thoughts, Kyle?
Yeah, no, I toyed around with the idea of like I've still obviously it's early in the week been thinking about how to attack Tyler Boyd because I kind of am in the position I was last week where people were potentially worried about like Cortland Sutton or Noah Fant because Joe Flacco was on IR or whatever. But as if he wasn't awful, the same thing can be said for Andy Dalton. Like, is going to a backup actually bad for this receiving core? I would say at best it's or at worst, I guess it's probably a wash. Tyler Boyd's seeing a ton of volume. So yeah, I think he's a fine option to run it back with. I would not be as interested if AJ Green plays. I think it's Wednesday. He did not practice today at all, despite the fact that they say he's going to play. I think like volume trumps all else. And if AJ Green comes back, he probably gets the team's volume. So for me, I'd much rather play Boyd if Green doesn't play.
No, it makes sense. It's a good call.
All right, next game I have here, Giants-Jets. Oh, Jesus Christ. Giants-Jets, Jets 2.5-point home dogs. Jets are awful. Giants are pretty darn bad too. It's a 43.5-point total. I mean, you can play Robbie Anderson because the Giants' pass defense isn't very good, and he gets them sweet air yards. For me, I don't know. The only play I'm super interested in is Saquon because he, like, clearly they want to run their offense through him, but now they're out Evan Ingram, Sterling Shepard. So not only like do they want to give him the ball, they really don't have any other choice with their only other 2 like proven weapons out. I guess Golden Tate also there, but running out of the slot, like he's like it's hard to run your entire offense through him, which they've not struggled to do with Saquon. So I think he's fine at 8,800, probably a decent value. But just on this Giants offense in such a like low total, ugly game, it's like I don't know how interested you can be in it. I guess what are you doing with the news that Sterling Shepard and Evan Ingram are out? Like Darius Slayton, Golden Tate, who's now priced up to like 5,900. I don't know.
Yeah, I like Slayton. I like pairing him with Daniel Jones too. I think that's interesting. Slayton at 4,200 is too cheap. And I don't even mind getting some Saquon in there. 43.5. I hope this is kind of looking towards the over. Then it would give me more like definitely be happier with that. Is Shepard out? You said Shepard was out?
Yes, he is seeing like a specialist in Pittsburgh for his concussions or something.
Okay. Yeah, I think Jones, Barkley, and Slayton are in play. As like a 3-man game stack and maybe running it back with if Lev's probably going to play at this point. Maybe running it back with like a Chris Herndon. Not a game that I want to run back. It would be more just like a 3-man stack.
I would probably not be running it back with Chris Herndon just because like it seems very clear that they like what they have in Ryan Griffin. They have had
Yeah,
Herndon.
that's a good point. Yeah, I would just I wouldn't run it back anyways because it's a 43.5 point total. But I like the stack of Jones, Barkley, and one of these receivers, Tate or Slayton.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. Especially with just like how much volume you can kind of project for those guys. All right, next game is I honestly think this is the game of the slate, in my opinion. Saints versus Falcons in the Superdome. Got Drew Brees at home as a 13-point favorite. I call this the game of the slate, assuming that Matt Ryan is playing. All signs point to that, but I guess we don't know until inactives are announced. But 51-point total. For me, it's also just very easy to project the volume, especially on the home favorite Saints side. Right now, 32 implied team total. And assuming Alvin Kamara plays, it's probably just Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas. The only concern is how well Latavius Murray played. Do they get him involved? And I think it's possible, but we've also seen that throughout Alvin Kamara's career that they get another back involved, and he just doesn't seem to care when it comes to scoring fantasy points. I expect Michael Thomas to be like the highest owned receiver on the slate, so I don't mind in tournaments going to like Alvin Kamara, Drew Brees stacks.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I like Ted Ginn a ton at 3,700, seeing a significant amount of snaps in the Dome in Atlanta. I definitely don't mind stacking up both sides of this game. I think Ryan is probably a guy that I'd be more interested in because there's more. You can definitely run it back with Kamara. You can run it back with Michael Thomas, or you can even run it back with Ginn. I would probably, if I was running that back with Ginn, I'd be running it back with Ginn and one of Lat or Michael Thomas. It's just Matt Ryan there's an interesting situation in terms of like his receiving core. Russell Gage caught 7 passes.
Yes, I was literally about to bring him up.
Yeah, Russell Gage is interesting, and Calvin Ridley's interesting as well. Julio's less interesting, but he's Julio. Mm-hmm. Austin Cooper at 5.5. I think all these guys, this game, the Atlanta side is something if Russell Gage is going to go low owned, and he's going to see all these targets, I think he's going to be someone we consider at 3-4, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I like if he had any
be a cash game play by any means, and then if I don't know, it's just like it seems like a good play.
Yeah, no, I could not agree more. 9 targets last week, played on over half the team's snaps. My guess, I can look it up real quick. My guess is he's played mostly in the slot just because not surprising that Mohamed Sanu out and then they just slot him in. He was a guy who was like basically their starting receiver in preseason when they had all their guys benched and he played well. So for me, I do think Russell Gage in play for like, honestly, I think he's not even like, we talk about Brashad Perriman being like MME, like Millie Maker type play. I think he's much closer to just like your like 3 max, 20 max type of plays.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Yeah, and I agree, like you said, with Julio. I think Julio probably overpriced just on a points per dollar play, but I mean, it's Julio. He could go for 30 any game. I think like better value is probably Austin Hooper and Calvin Ridley, but all these guys are in play.
No, I'm in agreement.
All right, next game on the slate: Chicago Bears versus the Detroit Lions. Bears 2.5-point home favorites. The totals dropped 2.5 points from 44 to 41.5. Assuming this total, or I guess this line movement holds anywhere close to where it is, probably have very little interest in this game. David Montgomery, I think, is a fine play. I can't imagine playing, like, after what we saw from last week, playing any of Trubisky's weapons, even Allen Robinson, honestly. Like, I think they averaged 2 inches per pass attempt in their first half.
Yeah, I'm not really targeting this game at all. Maybe Montgomery at 5,300.
Yeah.
Pretty much it. Like, Truby's really bad, dude. I didn't realize how bad he is.
I mean, dude, I played him in tournaments. Of course I didn't realize how bad he was.
What about – no, that's not a good play.
What was it?
There's nothing in this game. 41. You could pretty much cross this game off. Kenny Golladay, like I don't even want to go there. Marvin, what about the Detroit side versus defense?
I mean, I guess
19 team total.
What was that?
19.5 team total.
Yeah, see, that's like, I don't know, that pretty much just moves me off almost entirely. And I think these guys are probably going to be at least higher owned than they should be relative to their like upside in this game. Like players in this game just generally would have a lower upside. But given that both Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay had good weeks last week, they're probably going to be at least somewhat owned.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Like, I just don't think you get a lot of like equity relative to their upside, like versus the field. So I don't know. Probably write this game off. David Montgomery, like 27 carries 2 weeks ago, 14 last week. He's getting a little receiving game work. I think he's a fine play. But outside of that, in 2 years. All right, next game, the first of our 4 o'clock slate is Miami. They're facing the Colts. Colts right now, it looks like they're optimistic Jacoby Brissett plays. No guarantees on that yet, but I guess we can talk about it as if that's the case. Totals first. We've got 10.5 point favorite Colts at home, 44-point totals. Totals moved up 1.5 points, which is interesting for a Miami game because they're awful. But they've actually played at least better in the past few weeks, especially notching their first win. So for me, this game starts with like Zach Pascal and Chester Rogers of all players because T.Y. Hilton out, Paris Campbell out. Pascal last week had a good week as the number 1 receiver. I think he's a fine player and he's getting volume. Now he gets it against Miami. My only problem is I think he's priced up to like 5,300. At that point, I don't think you're getting as much value as you were last week. He was like 4,100 last week. He saw 6 targets, brought in 5 of them for 76 yards and a tutter. I don't know. He's a fine tournament play. I think you can run just one back with him. You could run a Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki back, but probably another game I'm not looking to stack.
Yeah, it's definitely not a game I'm looking to stack. What about Kalen Ballage? Like, what are your thoughts? What are you doing?
My problem is he's garbage, and the team seems to agree with that. That would be like, it's one thing for me to just like
he's really bad. Like, I just can't. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, it'd be one thing for me.
The Miami side though, should we hate the Miami side? Like, I mean, Preston Williams, they're in a like someone like I don't the Indy side like Pascal Rogers. Yeah, I get it. Maybe Ebron at 3,900. Doyle looked good. Hoyer kept looking at Doyle.
Yeah, and Ebron played like 30-some% of the snaps or something like that. Like he's literally a high usage backup tight end.
No, I get it.
No, for the Miami side, it's at least I would say pretty predictable where their targets are going to go because Preston Williams tore his ACL. I swear he came back and played on a torn ACL. He left the field, then he came back, and in the end of the game, or I guess the next day,
he's going to be good. That kid.
Yeah, but he's not playing. Devontae Parker is their clear number 1 receiver. Mike Gesicki getting a lot of like 20 targets in the past 4 weeks. And as long as the air yards data wasn't broken at this point, he was like number 3 in that span in air yards.
You're really upset about this air yard situation.
Dude, it's good information that's gone. I've got a hookup though, don't worry. But yeah, he was getting like it's a Noah Fant situation all over again, just like
why don't you just message Hirschmeyer?
No, the problem is that he doesn't want to collect the data anymore because whatever source he grabs the data from changed, and it's just a lot of work for him to rewrite everything.
Yeah, makes sense.
Like, just doesn't have the time.
Yeah.
No, Sports Info Solutions supposedly has air yards data, but it wasn't working on their site. But I have a friend who might be able to pull it from NFL Scrape R or whatever.
Okay.
So trust me, I will get my air yards. But until then, Mike Gesicki and Devontae Parker probably just like the 2 players on the Dolphins that you can target.
Interesting that goes out this week, but all right, let's get into the next game. I'll eat my Toblerone.
Let's see. Next game, the Rams are going to Pittsburgh. They are 3.5 point favorites. A 45 total that moved down a point. Why are all these totals moved down? Moved down 1.5 points to 43.5. I don't know James Conner's status. I'll look it up real quick. Last week we saw he didn't smash, but he hit 5x Jalen Samuels because he set either tied or set a franchise record for receptions by a running back. And it was just that's just how they ran their offense. But for me, especially the presence of Jalen Samuels, especially now that he's priced up, really has me not caring about anyone on this offense because their offense is just so predictably timid, like just running these like low A dot Jalen Samuels. Like they're running their offense through the like Jarvis Landry slot routes, but it goes to even like lower A dot Jalen Samuels. So I don't know. This offense just doesn't have any appeal to me if he is their starter outside of him. But now he's priced up to like 6,300. So
yeah, I think he's fine at 6,300 though. I don't hate him. Especially versus the Rams, they're definitely going to be playing from behind, so he'll definitely see those targets. And one of my favorite plays is on the Rams side in this game on the slate. That would be Cooper Kupp. Pittsburgh traditionally likes to cover slot receivers with linebackers. That's not a good idea, especially not versus Cooper Kupp. So I like Cooper Kupp. What say you, Kyle?
Yeah, you can never not talk me into Cooper Kupp. I would just like to add Josh Reynolds, Brandon Cooks. I think he's been ruled out, but like it was pretty obvious anyways, given his just extensive concussion history. Yeah, Josh Reynolds played basically just the Brandon Cooks role, and he's 3,800 this week. I think you have to consider him in cash just because we saw like basically my question is, would you buy Brandon Cooks at 3,800 in cash? I'd say yes. So
yeah, I like Reynolds. I prefer Kupp.
Yeah, I don't think Reynolds I think
Reynolds gets a lot of red zone for a backup.
Yeah, now he'll move into a starting role on maybe they run like the second most three wide snaps now that Arizona's run by Cliff, but a team that generally just runs their offense out of like base 3 wide by like a wide margin compared to other teams. So I expect him to play like a full complement of snaps essentially.
Is Gerald Everett still a thing?
I mean, I'm sure he's still a thing, and with Cooks out, I think you at least have to peg him to get on the field slightly more. 4,500, I liked him more when he was sitting around that 3K range.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He's probably more of a thing in tournaments.
He'll probably be Justin's favorite play this week.
No, because he had Austin Hooper. I don't know if you know this, but he actually had Austin Hooper, number 4 tight end.
Number 4 tight end on what?
His season-long rankings, obviously.
Oh. Season-long rankings?
You know, season-long rankings. All right, let's see.
What projection system did he use?
The rapport model. The critical think model. CTM. All right, next game. We have the Carolina Panthers versus Green Bay Packers. Panthers are 5.5-point road favorites. Another total that has moved down from 48 to 46.5, but still one of the better-ish totals on the slate. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, 10.5K. I think there's other like good values at running back between Devin Singletary. I think David Montgomery's fine. Ronald Jones is fine. That you can easily pay up for your first running back at 10.5. Just like you're getting a number one receiver, like a low volume number one receiver role combined with like one of the best running back roles. And he's super good. Gets all their touchdowns.
Who is this?
Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, yeah, he's good.
You know, Derry Sanders.
Is that what they call him?
Derry Sanders. Somebody called him that. I think it's the funniest thing ever.
I don't get why do they call him
Derry?
Because he's white.
Yep. Yeah, but I don't know. I just play him in cash until he busts, and he might never bust. So
I like him.
Let's see. I guess really this offense has 3, maybe 4 components you want to look at. Curtis Samuel was getting the air yards.
Well, I must say though, 10.5 is a lot of money.
I think this slate has like decent values everywhere. It's fine to get to him in cash. He wasn't like a necessity. I think he was in the Millie Maker winning lineup, but like in the top 100 lineups, he was like 20% owned or something. Like he wasn't the player you needed to.
This is gonna bite me really bad, but 10.5 is a lot to pay for a guy.
I talked about this last week at 10. I was like, I don't like.
And I was with you. I didn't think it was like that much of a like 40 points is a lot. Like that's a lot of points, man.
Yeah, that was my argument.
It's not going to happen. And I would rather it not happen this week if I decide to fade that.
This was my argument last week, but I still think it's this is no, you're making the argument I made last week. I still played him in cash, but
like I didn't think it was that egregious of an argument last week. Like it takes a lot to get to like I understand the usage. It's just a lot. Like it's a lot. Like he needs to break another. Like he's lucky he broke that 50-yard run.
Yeah. No, I mean you can't like. I think in like there's no better way to buy volume than Christian McCaffrey in cash, but in tournaments, like he has to hit 35 to 40 points.
I'd rather fade him and pay up at receiver. Like if I can get, I don't know. There's got to be ways to, like Cooper Kupp's going to see a lot. Like Cooper Kupp would be the receiver that I'd be paying up for to get like a usage kind of like he's going to see usage. You take Brandon Cooks out of it. Like I feel like he's a good play. I don't mind paying up a receiver and being off McCaffrey this week. And I know John's going to give me shit for it, but like he just can't like he can sustain it. It's just like in the range of outcomes, is it actually going to happen again?
Yeah, I mean it'll happen again this season, but like, can you predict that it will for sure happen this week as like a road dog? Yeah, exactly. This is just the argument that it's a very hard prospect for a player at 10-5 to not only like to pay off value for McCaffrey in cash is fine, but you need your players to all smash value to win tournaments, and that literally necessitates a 40-point game.
Yeah, it's a really difficult call.
And I'm looking at projections. Ownership projections, and he's projecting as the highest owned running back on the slate by a considerably wide margin. I think that
you gotta pay him.
So yeah, let me see. Other projections have him as one of the top running backs, but not the top. I think that's more probable. But I still think I wouldn't blame anyone for fading a guy who needs 40.
You have to fade him. I don't see how you can't fade him. Not fade him completely, but be with the field. Not fade him. I shouldn't say that. I don't see how you wouldn't be with the field on him. I just think it's so much better play to be with the field.
Yeah, so I think let's
not fade him. I'm not saying fade him. I'm just saying with the field.
Christian McCaffrey, awful play this week. Book it, Bobby Gomes.
Yeah, Well, Kamara's a better play. I'm looking at it right now.
Yep. I agree with you, and I'm super excited.
I think Lat eats in a Kamara. Like that's something that makes me a little nervous.
Yeah, no, I'm not playing Kamara in cash until we see at least one game of him getting the Kamara role we've seen previously. But that's a risk I'm taking in tournaments. I'll be overweight on him in tournaments, I imagine.
Yeah.
All right, Green Bay side. Really, the only player I'm awfully interested in is Davante Adams. 11 targets last week in his first game back, played 45 of 54 snaps. And he's back to doing Davante Adams things as far as I can tell. And on the running back side, let me see Aaron Jones' price. It is almost certainly too much, just like we talked about going into last week. Just the touch squeeze between Jamal Williams and Davante Adams coming back is too much for him to overcome. Last week he saw 4 targets, which ties him for a low in the past 6 weeks or whatever, and saw 1 reception. I guess targets are probably the more predictive thing there, obviously, but also just 8 carries. 8 carries for a guy right now he's 70. Jesus, he's 7,400. Are you kidding me? A dude got 8 carries and is 7,400.
Who is it?
Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I don't like Jones this week. He's definitely going to be low owned.
Yeah, I mean, so is Zach Zenner. I'm not playing him, and I love Zach Zenner.
No, he might be a little higher owned than we actually anticipate.
I hope he is. That's an awful play. He got 8 carries and 1 catch, and he's 7,400.
Yeah, I don't understand pricing this week.
Went from being the sharpest ever last week to much more beatable this week. But yeah, I mean, Davante Adams, the only player I'm looking at on this side of the ball. McCaffrey on the other side. I don't know. Talked about him to death. That's the slate, man. Got 6 teams on bye.
Yeah.
I think we just have one question. If you have any more questions in the chat, please fire them up. Who should I start? Flex PPR, Bell, Latavius, Murray, Eckler, or Boyd? I mean, probably Bell. You just get so much more volume, assuming he plays. Of course, that's subject to change, but we have no clue what volume we're getting from Latavius. Eckler had a fine game last week, but it was also kind of a more pace-up spot. Same thing with Boyd. If Green comes back, that's a no-go. I'm Bell. It's just clearly Bell for me.
Yeah, I'm with you, Bell, too.
Okay, that is all of our questions. That is all of the games on this slate. You can check us out Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern. For myself, at Kyle Tweets here. For Bobby Gomes, at Bobby Gomes DFS. Everybody, thanks for tuning in.